Topic of discussion this morning: the Saints fired Dennis Allen. Saints fired Dennis Allen, and this felt like a move that was coming.
Mhm.
Um, and it felt like this was inevitable, if you ask me. I would say the expectation to win in New Orleans um, is very high. You can't start slow. Losing to a team like the Panthers, and obviously you saw Cam Jordan's reaction, right? You saw Cam Jordan's reaction at the end of the game as they were walking back to the locker room. You saw how some of the players were coming on social media apologizing for losing. Now, understand, this is the NFL. This is the National Football League. You know how high your standard has to be for players to come out and apologize to their fan base for losing a game.
Yeah.
That means that tells me everything I need to know. That tells me that this team believes that they're head and shoulders, unequivocally, better than the Carolina Panthers. And they felt like this was an all-time low. That was a loss that helps you lose the fan base, that helps you lose the locker room. And what's crazy? We were actually expecting to start the show off by talking about Derek Carr and some of his errant throws and some of the discussion surrounding Mike Thomas, their former star wide receiver, who was very vocal on social media yesterday. It makes you wonder, though, where do the Saints go from here? Where do the Saints go from here? They fired Dennis Allen. What's next for them? Danny, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that this is first off, it's a great move, and it's a move that was necessary, Malik. I mean, this is a team, they've got a lot of talent on their team. You cannot lose 7 straight games in the NFL and expect no consequences. That's the fact of the matter, right? Any team, that goes for the Cincinnati Bengals, that goes for the Buffalo Bills, whatever team you are, if you lose 7 straight games, there are going to be consequences. In my opinion, the order of blame goes from head coach to quarterback or from coordinators to head coach to quarterback to the organization if all 3 of those don't work out. So the first thing to go is a Dennis Allen, right? Dennis Allen was 18-25 as the head coach of the New Orleans Saints. The past couple of years, they were a team that was extremely talented, but they could never get over the hump. And Dennis Allen was always a guy where he was always just struggling as head coach from game management, late game stuff, pretty much everything that involves dealing with the intricacies of the game, especially these close games with the New Orleans Saints. That's what concerned me with a guy like Dennis Allen. And for Saints fans, they should be happy right now. They should be happy, not that, Dennis Allen was a terrible head coach, but the fact that he's gone and you guys at least get something new, because the outburst and the outcry from all Saints fans yesterday after the game needed some sort of change. And this at least shows you're moving in the right direction. This at least shows you're moving towards a better future. So I'm a huge fan of this. I think that this is a much needed move. I think that this is a move that Saints fans should be happy about and should be excited to look into the future. So when I look at the rest of the Saints team, I don't think that this fixes everything, and nor it should. I think the organization has some serious flaws, right? The past 3 years, they've been in this limbo of, hey, we're going to try to compete regardless of us losing our head coach and Sean Payton. We're going to try to compete regardless of us losing our all-pro, one of the all-time great quarterbacks in Drew Brees multiple years ago. And they just really haven't been the same team since. And they're a team where they're just chugging along. And when you look at every single team that's had success, that's, went over the hump, a lot of times they went through some really bad years, or they very quickly went and got a new quarterback for the organization. Look at the Kansas City Chiefs, right? They were a team where they had an Alex Smith. They were always a very solid team, but they fell upon and drafted a young quarterback that became their franchise quarterback. And that's how they went over and got over their hump. You look at a team like the Buffalo Bills, right? The Buffalo Bills were a team always in mediocre land, right? The EJ Manuels of the world, the Tyrod Taylors of the world. These are guys that Bills fans put their hopes into. And how did they get over the hump? How did they get into serious playoff contention? They went and they drafted a franchise quarterback. So this Saints team, the path that they were trying to go was they were trying to get an average quarterback in Derek Carr and surround them with great talent. Well, Malik, they're at a point they don't have great talent on their team. They're at a point where they have a bottom 5 offensive line. So I'm looking at this point, squarely at the organization. I'm saying, hey, you guys are paying these old dudes, Samaro Davis, stud, Cam Jordan, stud, Marcus Lattimore, stud. But these dudes are getting older. The offensive line, which was once great, they're older and they're no longer here. So when I look at the Saints team, this sparks a rebuild, and this should spark for Saints fans, hey, a turning of a new leaf. Derek Carr is a fine quarterback. I really appreciate him as a person. I think he's a stand-up dude. I think he's a stand-up individual. When it comes to an organization building, Derek Carr's not the guy. So what's your pathway forward, right? Your pathway forward is to get off of these older contracts, to get off of these big money guys. And this upcoming offseason, you're going to have a lot of money in free agency. You're going to have a lot of leeway and room to roam around. So if I'm the Saints right now, if I'm the Saints organization, I'm looking at this as turning a new leaf. I'm looking at this, you're 2-7. I wouldn't tank the season away, albeit it may be smart so you get a lot higher draft pick. I think that the culture matters in the locker room. I think that you have to go out and at least show some fight. So if I'm the Saints, I'm looking to fight. I'm looking to get myself at least rattle off a couple wins, because if they go on a run, Malik, they're still going to have a top 10 pick. At 2-7, you're still going to have a top 10 pick. So go on a run, try to get some confidence in your organization, and really, hey, look to see who is going to be the head coach of the future, because that's something where that decision is going to really dictate the next 4 years. You're not like a Raiders that can cycle through head coaches. So I'm a firm believer that the head coach and the way that the organization approaches that signals how that they want to go about their future. So my next steps for the Saints are, I would look to be kind of sellers at the deadline, try to give some guys away, trade away Chase Young. Chris Olave's out for a long time. So I'd be looking to trade some of those guys away, try to win some of these games. And this offseason, who's going to be your head coach? And is there a guy in the draft that you want to be your quarterback of the future? And that's where you start. So,
well, you said a lot there.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. I disagree with some of the stuff you said, though. Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't really disagree with you all. Well, that's not true. I disagree with you a good amount, but I would just say this. I disagree that Saints fans should be happy.
Really?
Yeah. Where do you go from here? You're in cap hell.
Yep.
So whoever you quote unquote want to bring in as a head coach is already going to be hampered by aging roster and a situation in which you can't go out there and acquire the talent that you want to get. Because of this cap situation the roster is in. I don't think they should be happy, because Dennis Allen was sold to this fan base as the replacement, or the person, the next up, if you will, by their beloved head coach that they had before, which was Sean Payton. I don't think the Saints fans should be happy, because their beloved coach Sean Payton said that he was walking away from the game, and he returns a year after being in the broadcast, being on TV, to go coach the Denver Broncos, and then absolutely just dog walked you guys when you guys faced them the other day. I don't think that you should be happy, because what does the future look like?
Yep.
Who realistically is coming into this job wanting to take over the Saints and looking at it like, yes, I have an aging roster. Yes. What changes can I make? I can't, because we're in cap hell. Yes. What seriously game-changing coach are the Saints fans getting in there that is going to help reshape the culture? That's the biggest thing for me. So I don't feel that they should have anything to be happy about. If I was a Saints fan, I'd be pissed. When they hired Dennis Allen, and I hate to run laps, but when they hired Dennis Allen, I said, hey, I don't like this move, because I remember when he was the coach of the Raiders, and it was very much of the same. It was very much of the same. This isn't a situation that necessarily is shocking to me. Yep. It's more so disappointing, because I don't think people understand this is going to be a long process for the Saints. We're talking about maybe one, maybe two coaches you might have to recycle through, because whoever comes in and takes over this team, understand this team is getting gutted. This team is getting gutted. Some franchise cornerstone pieces that you love on this team will not be here probably by tomorrow at 4 p.m.
Yep.
We're talking about people like Cam Jordan. We're talking about people like Marshawn Lattimore. We're talking about people like, when he gets healthy, Ryan Ramczyk, the right tackle. We're talking about Derek Carr not being here long term. You obviously have Chris Olave. All right. He's here. What's the future hold for Alvin Kamara? Right? Like these are real conversations we should be having, but by no means, Saints fans, do I look at them and I say, hey, you know what? You should be happy with the situation that you have right now.
Well,
you shouldn't be. It's It's an unfortunate situation. It is.
Yes.
I think everybody expected more from Dennis Allen in that building, at least. I think everybody thought that maybe he'd be able to continue the success that they've had. Nobody's coming into a situation unless they're already in the building on staff, like a Kubiak, who are looking at the situation and are saying, hey, you know what? I can grow with this team. What are your thoughts?
No, yeah. I'm not saying that they should be happy, but this is the right move. So at this point, this is the right move, in my opinion.
Well, let me finish. Let me finish on that. I disagree.
You think they should have kept Dennis Allen the rest of the year?
You're 2-7.
Yeah.
All right. What is to be gained by firing that guy right now? You're not going to make a playoff push. The lows of the lows just happen. I understand if you're firing him to boost morale, sure. I'm not really the biggest firing coaches in season guy. I'm really not that, because I think that signifies as an organization, you don't know what you're doing. I think every coach, unless you just do something egregious, deserves the right to end the season. Okay. Unless you're like, oh, you haven't won a game. Unless you're like, oh, and whatever, you haven't won a game. If you have ones on the board, I think you have deserved to start to finish off the season at the very least, because you're going to make the decision regardless.
Yeah.
You're going to make the decision regardless, but then you get to know how the team fights. You get to know who wants it. You get to know who wants, and I get it. The standard is high. Maybe this gives you a jump on the head coaching search. I get that. To me, there's a lot of weeks left in the season. If you're going to fire a guy, if you don't want to wait to the end of the season, at least fire him with like 2 weeks left in the season. Don't fire him when there's like, how many more games left to be played, guys?
Yeah, about 9, 8.
Like I don't know. I'm just not a fan of that. There's nothing to really gain from that personally.